A very good morning to you once again. Thank you for staying with us here. This is the mid-morning discuss on Global Television. We're live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, Aimuyi, Agmofwegbe. In the last couple of days, we've taken our time to bring you very precise and in-depth analysis as to the load, if you like, the bulk of work that is in front of this government that was inaugurated on the 29th of May. This government, by the way, has done about 8 days, 9 days in office, but then there's a call every other day we wake up as to what critical sector of our national life that deserves attention, that should be attended to as quickly as possible. On this morning's discourse today, we want to look at some of these areas, and we're beginning with issues around insecurity, because people have to be alive to be able to attend to very critical issues that we grapple with as a government, as a people, and of course, as an economy. We also want to take a very close look at infrastructure development. Some data would have us believe that as of today, Nigeria has nothing less than 56,000 uncompleted projects. And we understand that those projects include bridges, roads, and so on and so forth. But then it goes back to our budgetary cycle, all right, what we prioritize in our budgeting every other year. Okay, how much do we give to capital expenditure as against recurrent expenditure? Analysts, particularly in the field of economics, have always faltered how we budget for capital expenditure, because they say that's one way we can build our economy, that's one way we can develop and fast-track growth as a nation. And then lastly, we want to look at the rule of law, because so much of the issues we discuss about, especially here on Global Television, hinges on the rule of law. The rule of law must be the pivot upon which everything else revolves, which means everybody must be held accountable in light of the responsibility they have been assigned. So we're going to look at the rule of law. We're going to look at the implications around a situation where, for example, we flout the rule of law and what consequences that has for us as a country. I'm joined by someone who is going to help us beat context into this and just help us create perspectives this morning. Chiemeka Orizu is a legal practitioner, and he's joining us here this morning to have this conversation real quick. Chiemeka, it's a pleasure to have you here this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, great. I know, like everyone else, you have been following the new government now. You have your own assessments, even though it's still very early in the day to, as they say, call report card, all right, that kind of thing. But when you look at where we are coming from, where we had been the last 8 years, and then you look at the government today, what do you see? You see a whole new horizon opening up, or you feel it is same old, same old?
Well, where we are, we've not gotten to where we're supposed to be as a nation.
Are we doing better?
We are still progressing, but I look forward to a better Nigeria with this new administration. Look forward to a better Nigeria with this new administration, because I think Buhari, the last administration, tried in terms of infrastructure, but they didn't get everything right. You know, Rome was not built in a day.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Nigeria is still a developing nation, but our scorecard is below average. That is what I must say. But I'll give kudos to people that worked. If you look at, when we talk about infrastructure, we talk about repairing of bridges, good roads. If you go to other countries like Canada, UK, some other developed nations, you hardly see potholes. Those are some of the things that kill people. Those are the things that cause accidents. If you go to, if you're coming from the east to Abuja, past Lokoja Road, some of the bridges are not good. If you're coming from Asaba, between that Uromi Road, everywhere is still messed up. Sometimes people can be in traffic for days just because a lot of things have been going wrong. So, the answer to your question, our government, they are trying, but their best is not enough.
Okay, so now that we talk about government and the amount of work they've done or are still doing, can we narrow that a little to insecurity, the fight against insecurity has been a long time coming. I mean, off camera a while ago, you and I talked about this a bit, and you were trying to explain to me, make me see how that kidnapping, for instance, has been here for a long time. And security forces or agencies are still grappling against that. Then, some years ago, we somehow, insurgency was added. After that, banditry, and then you have unknown gunmen. So it's a potpourri of evils, in a manner of speaking. So, having said that, do we see a lot changing with the new government now in terms of fighting insecurity to a standstill?
Just like I said, it's still a work in progress.
Okay.
If you read the news yesterday, you saw that the president was at the National Security House.
Yes, the Office of the National Security Advisor, right?
Yes.
That was 2 days ago, on Monday?
Yes. He was trying to, I believe he would try his best to secure Nigerians. But let me be clear here. Insecurity has been here for a very long time. Insecurity is something that has troubled us. Everywhere in Nigeria is burning. And insecurity is not only for the government. You as an individual should also partake in. Now, if you look at, if we try tracing insecurity from the time of Shehu Yaradua down to this present administration, you know that it has been a very high-headed monster that cannot be tackled in one day. Go to the east, you see the incidents of unknown gunmen, where they thought those people were, I don't know what they were thinking. The incident in Anambra State, were policemen not there, that they attacked U.S. officials that were working with United Nations. Look at last year when they kidnapped a lot of people. On the 28th day of March.
That's the train attack, right?
The train attack. Then you go to Yoruba land, Owo, on the 5th of June. Look at what happened.
The church.
Some are not reported.
Then some are underreported.
Yes. Some you don't see it on the news. What about insecurity? Is something that we all need to collaborate as a person, as individuals. We partner with government agencies to stop most of them. But one of the major problems that we have about insecurity is that our security, this chain of command, this chain of command is really causing a problem.
Is it faulty? Is the chain of command faulty?
It's faulty. They should look at a way of making it more flexible, where individuals can be part of security. If there is state policing, just imagine if the IG does not give order, no policeman will act. They must wait for a chain of command.
Order from above, right?
Yes, that is when they can act. How many days were those people adopted? Am I even talking about the Chibok girls? Am I talking about the reason why? Okay, let's look at NSAS.
From 2020.
NSAS scenario. It was the chain of command that killed a lot of people. Nobody has answered the question till today. Who ordered? But if we as a nation, if the government should understand that we as a nation, we should actually be in partnership, then we can tackle the issue of insecurity to a barest minimum. But you see the government, they are the ones partnering with them. Okay, look at Niger Delta, for example. They partner with criminals. They partner with, give contracts to, what are the security forces, what are they doing? That a whole oil sector, you privatize it and give it an individual to secure. I'm not saying it's bad.
So what's your concern?
My concern is the security institutions should be strengthened at all levels.
I'm happy now that you keep talking about strengthening the security space, all right? Just on Monday, the president, Bola Tinubu, was at the office of the National Security Advisor, and some of the highlights of what he said to them was, look, going forward, there shouldn't be a case of hoarding of intel, that is you keeping intelligence to your chest. They shouldn't work across purposes. There should be synergy, there should be interagency collaboration amongst them, because we have always heard that one of the problems within the security and intelligence sector is everybody wants to do their thing. So the Army wants to do its thing, the Air Force wants to do its thing, and then the Navy wants to do its thing. The police want to do their thing. I'm sure the president's thinking is, if all of you can collaborate, if all of you can have a common front, we will do far better with fighting insecurity than we've done or than we are currently doing. But then there are those who have also argued to say maybe this is the time to bring in new thinking. And by new thinking, they are saying let's bring in new service chiefs. Are you also thinking along those lines?
Bringing new service chiefs wouldn't really do much. If the institution is weak, everybody will be weak. If you bring new service chiefs, for example, they've been there for a very long time. We're not talking about the corruption, systemic, a very strong one in Nigeria here. That's what we're facing. Okay, look at the inauguration. You could see policemen fighting on live television. There's a need to go back to rearrange them. Some of them just take the job lightly. They don't take those things so serious.
So you're saying we cannot put new wine in an old wineskin, right?
Yes, even if you change new service chiefs and you fail to strengthen the institution, you see at the end of the day, what you are fighting will keep coming back to you.
But specifically, how do you strengthen the institutions? You're supposed to have people there who understand the ideology, the thinking behind the institutions, for example. So how do you then strengthen these institutions?
Yes, by putting strong measures.
Strong measures. You think we don't already have those measures in place?
Yeah. I think while I was coming, I heard the ordinary president, if you're conversant with, what is it called, the human rights radio.
Yeah, exactly.
Where someone called and was saying, he was thanking the ordinary president for fighting for the police. The ordinary president, the comment the man made was, we'll fight the ones that are bad. If the person is wrong, we'll make sure that he goes to prison. Those are some strong measures. If police act covers how police can operate.
Right. Rules of engagement.
To detect crime, to investigate crime. There are some laws that were put in place to govern them.
Sorry, do we need new... I mean, I'm glad you're a lawyer. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But do we need new laws, like you just mentioned the Police Act, for example, or we need to activate, as it were, existing laws?
We don't need... We already have a lot of laws. But most of the thing is, most people do not understand that they have rights. For example, I was at the police station the other time for a client. I got there, the policewoman was, the person wanted to write a statement of what transpired. The policeman was telling me to excuse her. I was telling the guy what to write. I said no, it doesn't work this way. If you look at administration of criminal justice law, there must be a lawyer there before a suspect writes a statement, because nobody is, except the court proves you guilty, that is when you are guilty. Notwithstanding whatever that has been said against you, or whatever that was reported against you. She was telling it was like an issue. Why? Because most of them do not read. Just like I told you, they do the job without strong orientation. If you put a new service chief that does not know what he's supposed to do you think the system will change? It can't change.
Unless you strengthen institutions and, in your words, put measures in place.
Strong measures. An American policeman cannot just come to your house, badge in, carry you. They have protocols. Even when you are in their station, you could see their training. Okay, look at that one that killed a black. You saw what they did to him. He was jailed because there were strong measures. There were protocols that they would have followed.
Yeah.
Well, in our system is weak. We need to strengthen.
And you're saying we need to strengthen. Now, as we begin to wrap up, Chairmeka, you mentioned the ACJA just a while ago, right? And Lagos had shown us some examples along that line since 2015, 2016. But then I want to use that as a basis to talk about the rule of law. Sometime a few years ago, former President Muhammadu Buhari was at a national event put together by the NBA, your own association, in Port Harcourt. And he talked about how that national security should take preeminence over rule of law. That became controversial. Lawyers were railing against that position at that time. Is that reflective of the thinking of government in this country? I mean, placing national security in front of the rule of law?
Well, you know, we are not in a military era. During the military era, they could use decrees and edicts to govern. Their words were final. But in this current dispensation, we operate a democratic setting. A democratic setting. If we look at chapter 4 of the Constitution, the only time the interest of the government can override the tenets of the Constitution is when there's a national security threat, something that will affect the sovereignty of a nation. I do not agree with that statement by the former president. They are different. From chapter 1 to the last chapter of the Constitution, everything has been spelled out there. This is how we do things. You know, before, was it not in 2014 that they had a confab?
Right.
The rule of law supersedes everything. The rule of law. What is the rule of law? The rule of law is the rules that a society must follow to be able to achieve a kind of a peaceful state of living. If there were no laws, this everywhere would be brutish. You see, you might be here, somebody can walk in and shoot you. But what the problem we'll have is that most of the times our government, they try to breach some of these rules.
As we land now, because we are time limited here, in 1 minute, I want you to talk to me about the confab reports. That was in 2014 that you talked about a while ago, right? It turns out that there are still calls. Since 2014, there have been calls that report should be dusted and the recommendations should be implemented. Do you think events have overtaken that already in 30 seconds?
Well, let's see what this government can do.
We'll deal with that report, right?
Yes. Because the last administration, they really, you see the court give order, they will not obey it. And in a democratic setting, there's something we call separation of power and check and balances. There are some things that the legislature will do that the court will check. There are things that the executive will do that the legislation will check.
Incidentally, I'm having a great time having this conversation with you, but I'm afraid this is where we're going to wrap it up. Barrister Chiemeka Orizu, thank you for coming to spend some time with us this morning around these issues. We hope, this time we're going to bring you back here onto one of our programs so we can have a more extensive conversation around very salient issues. We do hope you have a great day, right?
Thank you very much.
This is what we're leaving it, everyone, on the mid-morning discourse. I'm Muyag Mofwegbe. Do stay with us here on Global Television.